Every Christmas, the same little building comes back. A wooden stable. A thin roof. Mary on one side. Joseph on the other. And a baby lying in a box of hay. You know the scene before you even see the faces. But Luke never says Jesus was born in a stable. He gives us a manger. Then, over time, other pieces gather around it. An Old English word. An early cave. A house in Matthew. Animals no gospel puts in the room. By the end, one feeding trough has become the whole Christmas scene. So how did one manger become the stable in our heads? The rush. Most Christmas plays show Mary and Joseph reaching Bethlehem at the worst possible moment. Mary is already in labor. Joseph knocks on a door. The inn is full. They have nowhere to go, so they run to a stable. Luke tells it in a much calmer way. Joseph and Mary travel to Bethlehem. Then Luke says, while they were there, the time came for Mary to give birth. While they were there. That could mean hours or days. Luke does not tell us. He does not describe a last-second race through the streets. That changes the first part of the picture. They were not caught at the city gate with no plan. They had some kind of place to stay. The problem was the space inside it. Luke says Mary gave birth, wrapped Jesus in cloth, and laid him in a manger because there was no place for them in the kataluma. That last word has carried a lot of weight. For centuries, many English Bibles translated kataluma as inn. And when you hear inn, you picture a place for travelers. Rooms. A front desk. Maybe a tired man telling Joseph that everything is full. But kataluma is not that clear. It can mean a place to stay. It can mean lodging. In some settings, it can mean a guest room. The word does not give us a sign over a door or a man taking payment for a bed. Some modern Bibles now say guest room. The 2011 NIV does. That may be closer to the setting. But even that can be too exact. A scholar named Stephen Carlson studied the whole sentence. His point was simple. Kataluma tells us they had a place to stay. It does not hand us a floor plan. Carlson thought their space was too small for a berth. Others think a family guest room was full. Some still think Luke may mean a basic public place. The word alone does not settle the case. But Luke gives us another clue. In fact, he gives us two. Years later, when Jesus sends his disciples to prepare the Passover meal, they ask for a kataluma. In that story, the word points to a guest space linked to a house. Then, in the story of the Good Samaritan, Luke writes about a real inn. This time he uses a more specific word, pandakayan. Two places for travelers. Two different words. That does not prove Luke 2 must be a family guest room. Words change with context. But it makes the classic roadside inn much less certain than the Christmas play makes it look. So let us put the people back in the room. If the family house reading is right, forget a hotel desk. Picture one crowded place after dark. An oil lamp gives more smoke than light. Jars take up space. People sleep close. The air is warm from bodies, food, and animals kept nearby. The guest space is full, or not right for a berth. Luke does not describe those smells or walls. This is a possible scene, not a lost photograph. But it shows why the word guest room can change more than one label. It changes the whole kind of place we see. And then we reach the one object Luke repeats 3 times. The manger. A manger is a feeding place for animals. That sounds like proof of a stable. But only if a stable has to be a separate building. In many old rural homes, it did not. Picture a small house used for work, sleep, food, guests, and animals. The family stayed on a higher floor. Animals could use a lower or joined space. A trough could sit between them. If a small guest space was full, the larger family area could make more sense. In that kind of home, Mary could place the baby in a manger without leaving the house. Just a crowded home, a berth in the space that was available, and a feeding trough used as a safe place for the baby. A scholar named Kenneth Bailey made this view well known. He used Middle Eastern homes and customs to show how a manger could sit inside a family home. It is a strong model. It also has a limit. Part of Bailey's picture comes from much later homes and customs. They show that the layout was possible. They cannot prove that one house in Bethlehem looked the same. Old texts and archaeology help, but the limit remains. No one has found the birth house. We do not know its shape. We do not know who else was in the room. This model shows what could fit Luke. It does not give us the walls. And the next piece of the Christmas scene points underground. In the 2nd century, Justin Martyr wrote that Jesus was born in a cave near Bethlehem. Another early Christian text, called the Gospel of James, says the same. These texts came long after the birth. The Gospel of James adds details not found in Luke. A later cave story is not eyewitness proof. But it tells us something important. The cave was not a late idea made for a modern Christmas card. Christians were talking about it very early. Near Bethlehem, a cave, a house, and an animal space did not have to be 3 places. A home could use a rock space for storage or animals. The cave may preserve a memory, a later reading, or a space joined to a home. We cannot choose with confidence. But now we can see another layer. Luke gave us the manger. By the 2nd century, a cave had entered the picture. If you like seeing how old Bible images were built, subscribe. There are many more scenes like this to take apart. Then Matthew seems to give us a simple answer. When the Magi arrive, Matthew says they enter a house. Case closed, right? Not quite. Matthew may describe a later moment. The Magi are not part of Luke's night with the shepherds. The Gospels do not put everyone at the manger at once. The house in Matthew cannot be dragged backward to prove the room in Luke. And now we can rebuild the scene, piece by piece. Start with Luke's manger. That is the fixed point. Add kataluma, later heard by millions as in. The word creates a building in the mind, even though Luke does not draw one. Add animals because a manger feeds them. Luke never places an ox or donkey beside the baby, but the object makes their presence easy to picture. Add the early cave. Add the house from Matthew, even though it may belong to a later visit. Then fill the blank space with a closed door, a tired innkeeper, and a wooden barn outside town. None of those pieces came from nowhere. But they did not all come from the same verse, the same moment, or the same level of evidence. So why is there a stable in almost every nativity scene? Because the stable was not taken from one verse. It was built from several layers that later became one picture. Luke gives us a place to stay in a manger. A home can fit those clues. Early tradition gives us a cave. Matthew gives us a later house. Translation and art make them feel like one room. We still do not know the room. That open space helps explain why people kept building one. The text gives us very little furniture. It gives us cloth, a feeding trough, and a newborn child. Every Christmas, we put the little wooden walls back around them. Luke left us the manger. We built the Christmas stable around it,